This is a country that's built by immigrants. My dad is an immigrant.
These
and
are
the way
people
that
pouring in illegally in their millions over the southern
there
border.
are people that are
He's talking
seeking
about
asylum, and we need
Well, they're not
to
all
have...
speaking asylum. You know that, Kat.
No,
Come on. You don't
bullshit.
think you genuinely
Come on.
think
We
10 million?
literally just
Well, hang on, just to be
deported
clear,
men
you
who
genuinely think
claimed
nearly 10
asylum
million
in El Salvador
hang on,
being
Kat.
shipped to a concentration in El Salvador.
Kat, we're not talking about the ones being shipped to prisons in El Salvador. We're talking about the reportedly 10 million people who came over the southern border in the Biden administration. You think they're all genuine asylum seekers?
I think that we don't have a good enough asylum process, and there are plenty that are claiming asylum, and it doesn't matter whether someone is claiming asylum or not. Trump is treating them all the same.
In today's video, Tim Miller and Kat Abu Ghazali absolutely destroy Vincent Oshana in a heated debate on Trump's immigration. While Vincent tried to spin the usual MAGA talking points, Tim Miller came in locked and loaded with facts, exposing the cruel reality behind Trump's border theatrics, whether it was family separations, record-breaking deportations, or using migrants as political pawns. Tim didn't let any of it slide, and Kat Abu, she backed it up with real stories and receipts about how damaging Trump's policies were for real people, not just campaign slogans. So let's dive in and watch how Tim Miller and Kat Abu Ghazali shut down Vincent Oshana in this heated debate.
I mean, he just deported a 2-year-old U.S. citizen back to Honduras who is being treated for cancer. And that's the problem here, is when it comes to our border issues, we are focusing on, it's treated so broadly and so angrily, so hatefully, and there's no difference between these people. The way that this administration is treating them is inhumane.
Okay, Tim, you wanted to jump in there. Hang on, Vinny. Hang on.
Go ahead, Vinny. I'll follow up, Vinny.
Yeah,
Go
Tim,
for it, bro.
Tim, and I appreciate you, bro. Thank you, and I appreciate it. First of all, that 2-year-old was here with an illegal alien mother, and if the mother gets deported, Piers, the kids go with the mother. So stop that rhetoric.
She is a 2-year-old being treated for cancer.
Excuse me. I let you speak. Please let me finish, okay? And you're talking about, well, you're talking about, first of all, let me back up. Americans can't afford $1,000 and they're struggling. That's because of the last administration. Trump just got here. That's number one. And are you truly, genuinely talking about illegal? You're talking about illegal immigrants, illegals that are here, that are in freaking gangs. That to join the gang, they have to kill people, that sell drugs, that beat the shit out of his wife. We get rid of him. Is that who you're sticking up for? Are you honestly going to sit here and say Trump is just doing a broad, any illegal? No, it's going after the illegals, all right? And you mentioned veterans. I'm a United States Air Force veteran. When I joined, I swore an oath to the Constitution to protect this country of enemies foreign and domestic. And I never knew, Piers, who was the domestic. You know what the domestic is? It's the people that flood this country with illegals. They don't give a shit about law. They weaponize the justice system. They try to kill our freaking president. And then when he tries to kick these people out, he's the mean one. I'm sorry. This is an argument that you are not going to win. Okay, there's absolutely no. He's talking about illegal gang members, and you're sticking up for MS-13 members. Have you ever encountered an MS-13 member? Have you ever spoken to one of them?
Well, I think the problem, Vinny, hang on. I'm going to come to Tim. We are conflating several different issues here, because the issue of people being deported, many of whom are already on the deportation list and are convicted criminals, some of them for murder, rape, and so on. I don't think many Americans have any sympathy with, I assume, with those on a deportation list who've had the due process but haven't yet been deported, now being deported. There is an issue about whether they should be put in prisons in El Salvador. I get that. But that's not to do with what's happened on the southern border. That's a different issue altogether.
Now let's be clear, the US immigration system is broken, but not because of immigrants. It's broken because of decades of neglect, underfunding, and fear-based policy making. Kat was spot on when she pointed out that Trump's policies treated all immigrants the same, with cruelty, family separations, deporting kids with cancer, gutting asylum protections. That wasn't about public safety, that was about politics. And Vincent's rant about MS-13, that's textbook scapegoating. According to DHS data, fewer than 1% of undocumented immigrants are associated with gangs. Meanwhile, the majority of those crossing are families and individuals fleeing violence and poverty. And under international and US law, they have the legal right to request asylum. Kat nailed the bigger picture here. We need a functional, humane system that can distinguish between threats and those seeking refuge, not one that throws everyone into the same detention center and calls it law and order. Compassion and security are possible, but not with policies rooted in fear and cruelty.
So, Tim, let me ask you the same question.
Sure.
You wouldn't naturally race to praise Trump for anything, but can you find it in yourself to say that what's happened on the southern border is a good thing?
I can't, and here's why. And I was happy to let my cousin Vinny over there go. I thought he was going to explode. He might have had a heart attack over there if we didn't give him a chance to talk. But
I'm good.
Here's the thing,
good.
Piers. I believe that look, I used to be a Reagan Republican. All right, I believed that we were a shining city on a hill. I believed that we were a place where people should want to come if they're fleeing oppression. If we're talking about these Venezuelans in particular, they're in a communist country where they are being persecuted by a communist dictator. And I think that we should have an orderly process where people should be able to come from Venezuela to this country to be refugees like so many have before, like all of us have who came to America. That is what is unique about America. That's what makes America special, is that everyone except for the Native Americans came here because they were looking for opportunity, because they were fleeing someplace else. And we created a system that was obviously totally out of control. And so bringing some control to that system is fine. But that doesn't mean zero people come in. I'm not happy about that. I want Venezuelans freeing communism to be able to come here. We need to create a system where people can come here. And you're saying that these people are coming illegally. We actually know for sure that at least a couple of the Venezuelans that were sent to El Salvador came through the legal process. You might not like that process, but they used the CB1 app. They said that they were refugees fleeing oppression. They went to a third country. In one case, a guy went to Colombia, just like you're supposed to, and then he was brought to Florida, and that man has been sent to El Salvador. Maybe he's trying to Aragua. We don't know because there wasn't a court hearing. I've talked a lot about the gay makeup artist Andre. I'm sorry, Piers, but so I want people to come.
I hear you.
It's not good to be zero.
Tim,
we're America.
Tim, I agree with you.
We're not China.
That back and forth between Piers Morgan and Tim Miller really captured the heart of the immigration debate. And honestly, Tim made the case that more people in this country need to hear. While Piers pushed the usual "isn't it good that fewer people are coming in" angle, Tim brought it back to the actual principles that make America different. The idea that we are or should be a safe haven for people fleeing oppression. And he's right. Venezuelans are fleeing a brutal regime. Many are doing it the right way, applying through the CBP-1 app, seeking legal refuge, following protocol. But now, under Trump's hardline approach, even those people are being swept up and deported without hearings. One of the Venezuelans Tim referenced had followed every rule, made it to Colombia, then Florida, and was still sent to El Salvador. That's not just bad policy, it's morally wrong. Tim's broader point hits hard. We can absolutely have a secure and humane system. Closing the border entirely or pretending every immigrant is a criminal or invader ignores the fact that immigration is one of America's defining strengths. America has just failed to build a modern, functional process that reflects that reality. This isn't about being soft, it's about being smart and principled.
Listen, I don't disagree with you about the due process issue. And Elizabeth, what I would say, I think, against the pro-Trump argument on this is if you start to play loose with due process, what happens, as Donald Trump is now realizing, I think, is that the stories become the stories which are about due process, not what's happened on the southern border. There is a clear, demonstrable big success on the southern border, but I'm not reading or seeing anything about that. All I'm hearing about are these one or two isolated people who have not been afforded due process and where it looks unfair. And my point about that is that it's almost handing a victory to the jaws of defeat if you abandon due process. What do you think of that argument?
I mean, I have a lot to say in general, but can I just ask you, Piers, do you genuinely believe that the mainstream media that we've talked a bit about now for the last 15 minutes would have given Donald Trump the win and actually written about the victory at the border, regardless of what else was happening in the country? Do you believe that?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I think that's part of the problem. I think part of the problem, with Donald Trump, well, part of the problem with Donald Trump from day one, in terms of the way the media have treated him, is that they have failed to understand why he got elected. He got elected because he's not a conventional politician. He doesn't behave like a conventional politician. So the Trump hysteria raged away for 4 years the first time. This time round, we were told it's going to be different. Everyone's learned their lessons, and they haven't. The hysteria has blown up again about absolutely everything. Now, I've just been in America for a month. It's sort of every morning's like a jungle of everyone going bonkers about everything Trump says and does. When actually, as with all things Trump, it's better to take a bit of time and see how things play out, because I think that's what he does. I think he throws stuff up against the wall. He sees what sticks and what works and what doesn't work, what needs changing and so on. But the problem with the kind of controlled chaos strategy that Trump deploys is that he does allow his opponents, his enemies, and I include quite a lot of people in the media who really do want to take him down. Even now, you can see it. It gives them a chance and an excuse to do that. And it takes away from the successes. And I think on tariffs and stuff like that, I can see the big picture. I think most people understand the big argument and don't disagree with it. It's the way he's gone about this. He has to get some wins on the board, because otherwise, if in 6 months' time or a year's time, or as you head towards the midterms, the US economy is still in the doldrums and the stock market is still tanking, then you're going to lose the House in the midterms and the environment will change completely. So I do think there's, he's playing with fire here with this stuff, where he's got to get wins on the board.
Piers actually makes a surprisingly solid point here, and it's one more progressives should pay attention to. While he leans right, he's calling out something critical. Due process matters. Even if you agree with tighter border control or stronger immigration enforcement, abandoning due process isn't just morally wrong, it's strategically foolish. As Piers says, when you start skipping basic legal protections, you hand the other side the narrative. The headlines stop being about policy wins and start being about injustice, cruelty, and abuse of power. And rightly so. And here's a fact check for Elizabeth. A 2023 GAO report found that many of the Trump-era immigration practices cost more, not less, and actually slowed down the system for legitimate asylum claims. Meanwhile, the Biden administration, which she often criticizes, has actually overseen a recent drop in border crossing due in part of new legal pathways. So the chaos versus order framing she leans on is more about vibes than facts. This debate exposed the core divide. Vincent pushed MAGA fear tactics. Kat and Tim argued for humane, lawful immigration, and Piers called out how Trump's chaotic style buried any real wins. It was facts versus fear, and decency held its ground. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing, and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center, are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out ground news in the description down below.